Hello, in this video we are going to talk about some questions from the interview for JavaScript architect role. When I start with interview, it seems to be really simple questions, but it's as we proceed, it's turned to be most trickiest questions. It was really hard to answer and also like to complete this really small exercise. So I thought let's share with everyone. How do you guys feel? Please comment about the same. I'm sure that you might also going to see these questions as like kind of tricky questions, and you are going to also learn how to answer this as well as how to solve the problems about this. So it started with a really simple problem with a factorial problem. So let's find out the factorial of given number. So factorial is like if given number is 5, the factorial can be equal to 5 start with number and goes to the 4 multiply 3 multiply 2 multiply 1. So any number start from that and multiply it decrementing until the 1. That is how factorial work. If you want to donate it to the mathematics, it's like explanation, and this is a factorial. So how we can write the factorial is like, let's create the function and let's say factorial. It takes input as a number, and there are a couple of ways to write the factorial problem. Mostly like interviewer expect you might know about the recursion or not. So let's try to solve this with the recursion. So easiest way is like if n greater than or equal to 1, the factorial is 1. Otherwise we will call the same function again. So recursion is like calling the same function itself. That is a like recursion. So recursion will create the stack, call stack, and there might be like performance issues with this actually. Why it's not taking the braces? We are calling the same function, that is factorial functions, with like decrementing the number and multiplying it with like given number. So the number that is like comes into that, so it will be like multiply 5 4 3 2 1. So let's test our program. It is a really simple program, there is nothing much more into that. So let's say console.log and factorial of 5, it should be the 120 I guess. So let's run this one. It is a 120, so that is the right one. So this is factorial of 5 is 120. Now we turns to be like, is there another way to write the same program? So yes, absolutely there are other ways, like we can use the loops iterations for writing the same program, like instead of recursion. uh, so instead of like writing it myself, I will just copy this code and try to explain everything, and we will proceed like how this simple program turns to be tricky question. So this is like factorial program that I wrote during the interview process. So let's say it takes the number and start with factorial n, factorial 1, and until like number is greater than 0, we multiply that and just minus, do the like reduce the number by 1 doing like n minus minus and return the factorial. So this is the we can do, let's say it also gives the right output. So we are getting the right output. So factorial of high is 120 here. So that means this program is also right one. Now the like why I use the while loop over the for loop. So what is the actually difference between for and while loop? So what I think is like it's a both are the iteration can do, they both are the looping statement, they can loop actually, but the major difference what I found is if you know how many iteration you have to do, That means, let's say you want to do the iteration 10, you can use the for loop for that. That is best suitable for that, because for in a for loop we start with the index, and then we check condition that index less than or something, then we increment or either decrement. So if you know the number of iteration, it's better to use the for loop. That's I find. But if you don't know the iterations, like how many iteration, or if you want to check like if the condition is met or not, the while is will be the right choice according to me. There are different things as well to be considered actually. uh, Preferring the while over the for, or which should be used. So if you want to like use the while, the condition is upfront, and the other things like we need to take care inside the code, but in for all the three statement like initialization of that variables, even condition, and the like increment or decrement will be on the same things. It's like which one you choose over the why. So let's move to the next one. Now this factorial program, if we specify it, let's say 50, can I get the right number? So I can get like, yeah, factorial for that. But let's say if I maximize this number until the 500, will it be possible? So no, it's not returning the number, but it's saying that it's infinity. So what's that problem means actually? So the issue is here now. When we say factorial of 500, it is a big number, okay? And that big number, if it's like out of range from the number range actually, because JavaScript has a primitive data type. Number is one of the primitive data type, and if it's out of that boundary, then it will be convert, like it will say it's infinity. So that is why we are getting a infinity or not. So that is a like if you want to show the now, if it's infinity, we want to show users like, yeah, it's a out of range. If it's not infinity, or maybe it's a valid factorial, we want to show the valid factorial. So how we can do that? So let's say how we can do response equal to this factorial. So instead of typing, I will type, and there is a way to check like number is finite or infinite. So there is function like number dot is finite that we can use for that purpose. So let's say we can use like the if number is finite, then we can say it's a valid factorial. If it's not, then it's out of range. Let's try this one, and we can get like console as it's out of range. So that means we can use the is finite, number dot is finite or is finite function to check like the given number is actually is a finite or is a infinite. But next will be like which number is infinite, how it get decided. Like then I start thinking like there will be a boundary for number as well in JavaScript as well. So what is a maximum number that's allowed in JavaScript? So if you want to find this number, let's check the our documentation, number documentation. So let's say number dot max value. And that EMS, we will check the MSDN documents for the same, and we'll see what it say. So number is a property represent the maximum numeric value that represent in JavaScript. So if you do, if you check this, it will give you the maximum number that is possible in a JavaScript. So let's see what is a number. So it's a 9 quadrillion approximate actually. If you just, so it's 1.7 multiply e raised to 308. That's the maximum number possible in JavaScript according to this documentation. But they, if we again check like other properties available, there are some of the really interesting and confusing property. The max shape integer, it's a max value and the max shape integer. So let's check what it says actually. It is a maximum shape integer that can be possible into JavaScript. So what does that mean? Actually, it simply means it is a maximum integer value. What happened in JavaScript is actually all the number is inside the decimal, that is a floating. So everything is just decimal. So even if we say 1, it is never be 1, it's a 1.0. But it gives the ability to like use comparison greater than all this operator. It's treated as a integer. But if that integer is like under the max shape integer, then means we can use this operator we that can be simply like usable as an integer. But if it goes beyond that, it just lose that ability actually. So that means if it goes beyond the 2 raised to 53 minus 1, it start losing those all the properties of integer. So it will not able to compare the integer. So if you want to check this one, so this is a maximum number possible inside the JavaScript as integer. So let's do this thing now. So max number x is like plus 1 and y is plus 2. Number will be like this one. So if we add 1, it will be like 92, and if you add 2, it will be 93. So if you compare this number, the expected should be, it's not comparable, like it's a different number. It's less than 1, x is less than 1 from the y. But let's check, like if we compare, the expected should be false, but unfortunately it comes to true. So that means like the number is out of that range, it lose this comparison actually. So we can use this kind of information to check like what is what is maximum number that we can use for factorial. So I got a new question, like how you can mention like which, or maybe how you can find the maximum possible number which we can find out the factorial of. So first, how I write the program, I will explain that one, and then we will go how we can use the same information that we just discussed. Next question I got is like, if we specify the number which is beyond the limit, we get the infinity. So how we can show that, like, or maybe find out which number is possible to find out the factorial. So it means like if we specify the 100, so how we can get to know like first is 100 is out of range, and second is which number is within the range that is like below 100. So find out that, let's say how we can use this same logic. So we are starting the like largest number and trying to multiply with the last like factorial, that is like a kind of reducer one. Like even we can use the array reduce method as well to find out the factorial. But here, so if, what I thought now, let's say we can go from 1 multiply 2 multiply 3 multiply 4 until the like we get the max number which is finite. So with with that information, we if that like we never reach the limit of infinity, that like limit of no, that is boundary for number in JavaScript, that is possible factorially. If we reach that one, that means like we getting the infinity, we are out of range. So how can I check the number for that is do it like we start with factorial is as 1 and max number is a 1, let's say, and we will say like current number right now we are just going to increment this number unless we reach the infinity. So let's say the current number and the last factorial, if it's a finite one, then we will just do our multiplication and we save it as a max. It is possible. If it's not finite one, then we will say like the max is the current number and we will break that loop. So this way we can find out like what is a possible maximum number which we can get now. Let's say, let's check console.log and our factorial of, let's say, 20. Will that possible? So that is possible. We can get to know like max factorial is right now 20. So factor, we are getting the factorial and the max 20. So that means like that is a possible factorial. So let's go with like 200. Can I get the factorial of that? So no, that's not possible, like, because the maximum number for factorial is possible as 171, and that's factorial is given like this. So this is what we can find out the max number actually, but it's not actually like returning the max number that is possible. So how we can write the function which will return the max possible, like factorial number. So maybe we don't need this, but like if it's a larger number from that, it turns to be -1. That is even weird part. But let's say if the factorial is greater than the max number, we'll break that one and we will return the maximum number out of this. We can even start with 1, or maybe like, let's say, because we want to go with the factorial max, so we just started with 2. That's not a problem. So let's find out this max now, uh, calling this number, and let's see what we come up with here actually. So it's just a 18 actually. So that means the max shape integer is for like the only possible factorial for max shape integer is just a 18. But if we go with like max value, instead of that, we will get 171. That's, we just checked with last uh, last function that's I written actually, that gives this number instead of, that is a 170. So that is a maximum number that possible to get you the factorial. uh, like if we test after that, we start getting the infinities as the output. Okay, so might that satisfy the answers now? Not possible now, it gives the infinity. So how we can modify this program so we can get the like factorial for 171? So now whatever, we have the primitive data type that is a number, but there is a new data type that's available in JavaScript as well, and this is like big int. So if you want to get more information, actually, you just go and check the documentation for begin. But I only say is like, if this number is not possible for integer, so you get to know like what is a uh, maximum limit for integer. You can get it by number dot max value or max integer. So if that's not usable, you can use the begin. But the like the notation for begin is somewhat different. You need to specify en at the end. But how we can modify this program? So what I come up with, it's like we can use the begin. I will just copy paste this program now here like this, and let's try this to run right now. Now like it just same as we will have the uh, let's say we have the factorial that is like let's say p as a factorial, that is a big int. So there are a couple of things to mention, like don't mix up the integer number with the big int data type. So number is a different primitive data type, big int a different primitive data type. It's also introduced into the latest version, so it might be possible some browser doesn't support. So let's say, can we find it out now? So we, instead of getting the infinity, we start getting object and begin. So that is because of like if you console the begin, and that is out of that, like if you try to console log the begin, we get output as this, so we need to either convert it to the number or maybe the string. But if you convert it to the number, and if it's out of the boundary of number, you will start getting the like infinity. So let's say what okay, let's try out this test actually. So there is no, it will not help you like that. So but you can like try to convert it as a string, uh, that is possible instead of number, and you can see that number. So this is a really big number actually, that's not even possible. So this is how we can modify this factorial program, so it will give you the like all the possible factorial. We also see like how we can get the max possible factorial number, that is a max number that we can find out the factorial within the range. So I think the purpose of this interview is to like check like how much details you have about like the primitive data type, that is numbers, and then how you can build your logic. But I am sure that like, and from my all the career I never use this like the huge number, like this big number actually. So I never gone through the so much things, but somehow we read the documentation, so that get help sometimes. So just put your comments like what you think about these solutions that we can get here, or was it like somewhat considerable, or are there are some of the different information as well that we can try to solve these questions. So thank you for watching, and please do consider to subscribe my channel for the latest update. So see you in the next video.